If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to MINDSHOCK. This is your host, Bruce McGuire, and today we're going to do the first of several logical analyses on Ben Shapiro. Now, Ben Shapiro has been requested to be analyzed because obviously this guy is quite a sharp powerhouse when it comes to debate. Again, not necessarily that his final conclusions about anything are correct, although I'm not saying they are correct or incorrect. I would say in quite a few of the topics debated, he seems to have the correct conclusions based on the amount of information available. And then, of course, there are other topics where he is hypocritical and illogical and possibly even willfully ignorant. And we'll be examining all of that. As always, if you enjoy the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Help support the channel. Help us get out more logical analyses in debates and various topics that the mainstream refuses to cover. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, make sure you allow your device to have those notifications come through. If it's still not working, you could just go to youtube.com/mindshock, or if you only want true crime coverage, youtube.com/mindshock true crime. Obviously, on the main Mindshock channel, we cover everything with logic and reason at the forefront. If you found this particular logical analysis on this debate interesting, hit that like button, share it across social media platforms, of which you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Patreon. Patrons do have priority for case topic logical analysis, co-podcast or requests. You could also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. You could also debate me if you dare. Just make sure you have your logical fallacies in order because they will be called out. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. All right, so first things first. It is quite amusing that when you search Ben Shapiro, one of the just Ben Shapiro, one of the first videos that will come up is Ben Shapiro, U.S. commentator, clashes with BBC's Andrew Neil on BBC News, and this is from all the way back of May 10th, 2019. So almost 2 full years ago, and this is one of the most popular videos that's being recommended. Close to 9 million views. I wonder why. So here's my first dig, so to speak, on Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro himself has called this clash a loss. 0-1 Andrew Neil, I believe he tweeted afterwards. Now, you know what's funny, though? I'm going to call Ben Shapiro wrong on his analysis of this debate. And there's endless social media videos. Ben Shapiro destroyed by Andrew Neil and all of this nonsense. I don't know where this is all coming from unless you're just a really, really triggered Ben Shapiro hater and you thought he storms off at the end of this interview. If you think that negates any of the points or hallucinate that somehow erases Andrew Neil's foibles and I don't know just if he's faking stupidity or just downright basic English incomprehension on Andrew Neil's part, but to me it seems quite clear that Ben Shapiro dismantled Andrew Neil far more easily and severely than in some of Ben Shapiro's other debates. So I find this whole fiasco regarding this so-called interview hilarious, because everybody was trashing Ben Shapiro. There's so many things you can legitimately trash him for. I mean, position on vaccines and all this other government corruption that he's either willfully ignorant of, or if he has these faith-based presuppositions that don't hold up to logical scrutiny, quite hypocritical, because he's always advocating facts don't care about your feelings, when his own cognitive dissonance prevents him from understanding certain topics involving government, politics, etc. Now, this is not an attack on those issues since if they don't come up here, but it's just quite curious that the only thing the fake stream media can get on Ben Shapiro is his dismantling of Andrew Neil and pretend and hallucinate that Andrew Neil dismantled him just because he happened to storm off the set. Now, Of course, either he got emotional or he just saw that it was a waste of time to speak to someone whose Dunning-Kruger suffrage was so extreme he couldn't even comprehend what was being discussed, and Ben Shapiro no longer found that worthwhile. I mean, that doesn't invalidate any points on Ben Shapiro's part. So let's start examining here.
Ben Shapiro, you're followed by millions of people online and on social media. You're one of the biggest names in American conservatism. What is it you think you're tapping into?
Well, I think that there are a couple of things. One, there is actually a hunger for different ideas. The monolithic nature of the United States media is pretty evident in terms of its politics. People tend to agree on essentially the liberal point of view and increasingly a radical leftist point of view in the media. And obviously, I speak in response to that. At the same time, I try to provide an honest take on the issues of the day, and that means that I am not beholden to the Republican Party, for example. It means that I am going to speak out whenever I think that a principle is being violated, just no matter who is doing the violation.
You work for the right-wing Breitbart website.
So even there, Shapiro had a quite apt description of himself, which is for the most part fairly accurate since he seems to attack whoever he pleases. That doesn't mean he doesn't have his own agenda, but it seems like he is accurate in terms of he's attacked both Democrats and Republicans where he saw fit. Now, immediately you see Andrew Neil try to play gotcha. So he's trying to so this isn't really about any kind of civil discourse or any kind of real logical interview to glean any kind of information or to help anyone. Andrew Neil is here for the sole purpose of trying to catch Ben Shapiro in being wrong, and we'll see how obvious that manifests and how insecure and triggered Andrew Neil is just by even talking to him. And you can almost see it on his face even right there. Andrew Neil came prepared with a list to catch or goad Ben Shapiro into saying something inaccurate. And immediately there, he's trying to basically show, wait a second, you can't be neutral in any way. You used to work for this conservative company or this and that, and let's see how this plays out.
But you left over its support for Donald Trump. And I think you said you'd never vote for Mr. Trump. Why is that?
So everything he just said there is basically inaccurate. And you can see from Ben Shapiro's face, he's like, oh man, I got to deal with this old Dunning-Kruger goof who just spewed out a whole bunch of inaccurate circular reasoning logical fallacies so instead of asking a question, Andrew Neil could have asked him, why did you leave Breitbart? But instead, he went with this faith-based presupposition, something he saw in the idiot box or reported on the idiot box. He just assumed it was true because Andrew Neil clearly, at least for the purpose of this interview, I haven't seen that many Andrew Neil interviews. He does not seem to be very sharp in any capacity. Some people disagree, but I haven't seen anything from him that has shown me that he understands basic logic and reason, or even basic English comprehension, at least not when triggered. And if he's just normally triggered, if that's his baseline, again, I haven't seen enough interviews with him to really judge if this Dunning-Kruger stupor is his normal baseline, or if he's quite intelligent in other situations when he's not triggered or not interviewing people on some kind of list that he was been ordered to play gotcha with as part of some kind of deal with his string pullers for the BBC. So again, as he's a puppet mouthpiece for the BBC. So it's unclear there to me, so I'm not going to presuppose or assume he's always like this. He's never like this. Maybe he's a highly intelligent man when he's not doing the bidding of his string pullers. Who knows? But here, for this purpose, he's already presupposed that the reasons why Shapiro left Breitbart. Does he know those reasons better than Shapiro himself? I mean, how silly is Andrew Neil? And then also he said he would never vote for Donald Trump. So now he's putting words in Shapiro's mouth. So Shapiro, why would Shapiro be talking about elections down the line? Shapiro made comments regarding the 2016 election and that he would not be voting for Donald Trump. Now in 2019, Andrew Neil is trying to strawman, spin, desperately grasp at anything to try to twist Shapiro's words into saying he would never in history vote for Donald Trump. And here we'll see Ben Shapiro's responses, and we'll see if Andrew Neil has the mental capacity to understand the responses, and if he responds as such, or if he has suspended all logic and reason and will ignore anything that Shapiro says while trying to just make him look bad like a Dunning-Kruger goof, instead of an honest individual looking for a logical conversation.
Well, in 2015, 2016, the Breitbart made a hard turn in favor of one particular candidate, and that's their prerogative. Lots of publications have an editorial point of view, and Breitbart was one of those. The reason that I left Breitbart specifically was because of an incident in which a Breitbart reporter, a female reporter, was grabbed on the arm by Corey Lewandowski, then the campaign manager for President Trump, and was bruised on the arm, and then Corey Lewandowski proceeded to lie about it, and Breitbart proceeded to throw its own reporter under the bus, suggest that she was lying or making this up. And at that point, I determined that I could no longer work for a publication that wasn't even willing to stand up for its own reporters, and instead would throw those reporters under the bus in favor of a candidate that it sought to back.
Haven't you lost your battle for the Republican Party, though? Isn't the Republican Party now the party of Trump?
So immediately there, Andrew Neil completely disregards everything he just said. He was just made to look like a complete and utter fool by presupposing and assuming reasons instead of just flat out asking Shapiro like a normal, logical, honest human being on what the real issue is. He didn't even frame the question properly. He could have said, it's been reported it was because of this reason. Can you clarify? I mean, he doesn't do any of that. He just makes himself look dumber and dumber with each question. And now here he completely sidesteps the real issue, and Shapiro just clarified that, and now he's trying to play gotcha again with this next question. I mean, so this is the thing. Is Andrew Neil really this clueless about everything? Or is he a fairly intelligent individual doing the bidding of his string pullers? And he's just out to make Shapiro look bad. He's not out for any kind of truth, any kind of logical discussion. He's only playing gotcha. Let's see.
No, I mean, I think that the Republican Party is always the party of whomever is the president, technically speaking. But in terms of who are the sort of the thought leaders inside the conservative movement, who are the people who are driving a lot of the discussion inside the conservative movement, I don't think that's correct at all. I think that most Republicans see President Trump as a vehicle for their policy preferences, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they agree with all of his personal foibles or the way that he behaves or the things that he says. And I think a lot of Republicans respond in anger to the media attacking President Trump mainly out of a reactionary and half-appropriate upset that the media seem to have a double standard when it comes to covering certain politicians.
And everything he just said there was such basic common sense. The fact that it even had to be said, I mean, that's just sad. The fact that Andrew Neil doesn't have the mental wherewithal, the mental capacity, or he's playing stupid to exercise his agenda, that's just sad. And let's see what his response is here.
I'm interested that you think there's a thought movement inside the Republican Party. I mean, haven't the Conservatives run out of ideas in America? All the new policies, the Medicare for all, $15 minimum wage, the Green New Deal, they're all coming from the left. And they're popular.
Well, Frank.
Okay, wow. I don't know how anybody could hallucinate that Shapiro got destroyed or decimated in this debate. I mean, this is like Andrew Neil bought a sponge to some kind of showdown where Shapiro's got several tanks rolling in. I mean, this isn't even close. This isn't even close. I mean, this blatant, fragrant attack to try to make Republicans look stupid. And I don't advocate for Republicans or Democrats or any kind of government oppression of any kind. I do not advocate for violence or theft. So MINDSHOCK is not about that. But just, again, objectively looking at what Andrew Neil just said. So he just spewed all of this nonsense for the sake of trying to make Ben Shapiro and Republicans look bad. So as if new ideas are where it should be, and as if popular, he actually said it right there, and they're quite popular. So this guy is so clueless. He has no idea what an appeal to popularity logical fallacy is. What does truth have to do with logic? What is better, correct, have anything to do with popularity? What does popularity have to do with truth? Is he really that clueless? I mean, It's tough. It's really tough to discern here. But again, what's hilarious is that people actually think Shapiro lost this one. I mean, again, I will be looking at other interviews and other debates where I will take Shapiro to task, which is quite difficult. This has actually been the most challenging logical analysis has been on Ben Shapiro. Even in cases where he's clearly wrong, his argumentation is very, very good. It's very solid and consistent for the most part. I will be picking apart where it's not in the next video on Shapiro. But for the time being here, I mean, this is a one-sided decimation thus far. Even though we're just getting started.
I mean, frankly, I'm confused by the idea that any of those are particularly new ideas. I mean, most of those ideas have been around since Franklin Delano Roosevelt at the very earliest, or at the very latest, rather. Some of them go all the way back to Woodrow Wilson. But the idea that new ideas are absent in the Republican Party is obviously untrue. We have a very strong debate that goes on inside sort of the conservative halls of intelligentsia about what is the appropriate action to take with regard to the medical system. Should global warming be considered a real threat, or should global warming be considered something that technology will solve? And if so, what are the best aspects of solving that? Now, there's a rich intellectual debate on the right about nationalism versus patriotism, for example, or populism versus free marketeerism. That debate is happening on the right to sort of suggest that the right in America is bereft of ideas, but the left is full of ideas. Number one, not all ideas are good ideas. I mean, AOC is pretty good evidence of that. I'm a big fan of some old ideas myself that I think are pretty good. But beyond that, I think that it is intellectual sneering of the highest order to suggest that only the left has new and decent ideas.
Wow. Wow. I mean, this is such a severe thrashing. I mean, Shapiro's beating Andrew Neil like a redheaded stepchild. I mean, this thrashing is some of the most one-sided thrashing I've seen, even coming from Shapiro, which is difficult because he does give out some intellectual beatings that are quite severe, but he's usually dishing them out to clueless college kids at Q&As from his college, most of the time, not always. A lot of times, a fair amount of times it is on TV with other so-called experienced commentators. Andrew Neil is not a young college kid. This guy's a supposedly older functional adult, and he's just thrashing this goof like a redheaded stepchild. I mean, this is not even close. And his points, I mean, how could he have even prepared for that question? Shapiro's riffing off the cuff, where this Andrew Neil goof has spent time, or at least his controllers have spent time putting together this list to make Shapiro look bad, and he's just backhanding him easily on multiple levels, which is all true, because a lot of these ideas that he's mentioned from the left, they're really not new ideas. They're old socialist, communist ideas, some of them recycled or rebranded. And, of course, from the Republicans, they do come up with new stuff also. Again, that has nothing to do with who's right or who's wrong, but across the board, everything that Andrew Neil just said was completely false thus far. I mean, this is just such a one-sided thrashing.
Some of the ideas that are popular in your side of politics would seem to take us back to the Dark Ages. Georgia, new abortion laws, which you are much in favor of, that a woman who miscarries could get 30 years. A Georgian woman who travels to another state for an abortion procedure could get 10 years. These are extreme hard policies.
So he's clearly playing gotcha, and you can even see from his expression, like he's baiting Shapiro. He's just waiting for him to slip up, because he's been getting decimated so badly. You can even see his tone and expression slightly change, because he's being demolished so severely. He's getting more and more desperate, and you can see that in his micro expressions. He's just waiting, and Shapiro knows he's doing that. You can see how calm Shapiro is at this moment. We'll see how this escalates in coming moments, but yeah, it's really hilarious to see this. It's difficult. Is it really Dunning-Kruger cluelessness? Is Andrew Neil really sillier than a 4-year-old who just doesn't have the mental capacity to understand any of these basic points? Or is he just playing stupid to exercise the agenda of his controllers and handlers at the BBC? That's difficult. I really don't know the answer to that. The MindShock listeners out there can chime in with their opinions or what they can deduce from this interview or other interviews and other information available on Andrew Neil. Of course, the BBC is a highly controlled mainstream news outlet, so of course they have the slant to, the normal idiot box slant of not, there's no evidence of widespread journalistic integrity, and of course Andrew Neil fits into that category, no integrity at all, but again, just these kinds of loaded questions, presupposing this versus presupposing that, and these opinions masquerading as fact-based statements. Let's see how Shapiro responds here.
Well, okay, a couple of things. One, I'm not sure. I mean, frankly, I don't know whether are you an objective journalist or are you an opinion journalist?
I'm a journalist that asks questions.
And you didn't even answer the question. He's so triggered. He doesn't even directly answer the question. You can see it all over his face because he's been made to look so stupid thus far, and he doesn't like it. So he's trying to catch Shapiro on anything he can, anything at all. Almost like he's goading him into either an outburst or something just to make him look bad. Nothing to do with truth or who's right or who's wrong about anything, but it's really, really hilarious.
Okay, so you're a supposedly objective journalist calling policies with which you disagree barbaric and suggesting only one side of the political aisle has ideas. So I just want to point out that I wish you would at least be honest in your own biases.
Mr. Shapiro,
I know that broadcasting
in America is now so polarized that on one program you only have the left and another one you just have the right. My job is to question those who have strong views and put an alternative to them. If you were an anti-abortion person, I would be putting pro-abortion questions to you. But you are
really would you call the pro-choice position?
So why don't you
let me
just
ask you
answer
this.
my question,
sir? I'm happy to answer your question. Please answer this one. Would you suggest that a late-term abortion is brutal?
I'm not taking a view on this issue. I'm asking you the questions.
Sir, you just suggested that the pro-life position is inherently brutal and terrible, so I'm asking you, as an objective journalist, would you ask the same question to a pro-choice advocate by calling their position brutal and horrible?
What I'm asking you is that why is it that a bill banning abortions after a woman has been pregnant for 6 weeks is not a return to the Dark Ages?
All right, so this is almost tough to watch. I mean, Andrew Neil is making such a fool of himself. It's actually difficult. I feel bad for this old guy. I mean, is this some kind of is he going through some kind of, does he have dementia or something? He doesn't even understand what's going on, or is this still part of his act of playing stupid? So I like Shapiro's accurate calling of supposedly objective journal. I mean, that is quite accurate. Very, very sharp on the part of Shapiro as well. And this is a very strange logical analysis because I'm basically pointing out that Shapiro is logical every step of the way here, and he was illogical in the way that he somehow thought Andrew Neil won this exchange. So far, it's been one of the biggest decimations that I've ever seen involving Ben Shapiro destroying people. I mean, this is actually, this is a landslide. So Andrew Neil said, so is Andrew Neil admitting here that he's completely dishonest with zero integrity? So if he had someone who was anti-abortion, would he call it barbaric to not kill the child? I really don't understand what he's saying here. Is he saying he's going to lie and flip-flop depending on who he has on? How can you interpret that? I mean, if he's saying he had somebody else on, he would, because of these hard positions or whatever, he would challenge them. So, and Shapiro was asking him, would you really do that? Which means that Andrew Neil is either completely dishonest with zero integrity, actually, no matter how you slice it, because either he is, which means he would lie and just take opposite positions just for the heck of it, and create these circular reasoning logical fallacies and loaded questions, begging the question, and all of these things. Taking back to the Dark Ages, I mean, what kind of appeal to extremes logical fallacy is that? I mean, it's just, and he's using these anecdotal logical fallacies to pick out like one issue, 10 months this, 10 months that, instead of having a real discussion. So his motives are so clear, and the way he started sputtering as soon as Shapiro called him on it, I mean, would someone who has integrity and is conducting an honest, logical interview sputter out of control and get triggered the way Andrew Neil is here? Let's continue.
What's your answer?
My answer is something called science. Human life exists at conception. It ought to be protected. Now, back to my question to you. You purport to be an objective journalist. BBC purports to be an objective down-the-middle network. It obviously is not. It never has been. And you as a journalist are proceeding to call one side of the political aisle ignorant, barbaric, and sending us back to the dark ages. Why don't you just say that you're on the left? Is this so hard for you? Why can't you just be honest?
Mr.
Seriously,
Shapiro,
it's a serious question.
Mr. Shapiro, if you only knew how ridiculous that statement is, you wouldn't have said it. So let's move on.
Is Andrew Neil psychologically projecting now? If he only knew how ridiculous everything he had just said was, would he have said it? Now, and Andrew Neil's political views are all over the place, but just to clarify, and he's flip-flopped on many different things, and he was directly asked, supposedly by BBC, if he was a Republican recently. He said, not really. So does that mean he's completely on the left? That's all irrelevant, basically, because in terms of conducting this, some people point to, oh, Shapiro is calling him on the left in relation to as someone on the left would be in the U.S., and that might be inaccurate. But Shapiro is saying, why don't you say you're on the left? Like, again, a lot of that is just he's going tit for tat a little bit to just calling out Andrew Neil on his silliness. Could he have called him out more accurately? Could Ben Shapiro have studied his previous views? I mean, I don't think it would have made that much of a difference. Shapiro usually does his homework. He didn't do his homework as well regarding Andrew Neil, but he's still decimating him point for point. So, and Neil is doing nothing but embarrassing himself with every statement here. So I don't really see that as that relevant, but let's continue on here.
Would you vote
I
for
think
Mr.
it's pretty evident from your
Would
own
you
questions
vote for
exactly what you
Mr.
are, sir.
Trump? Would you vote for Mr. Trump in 2020?
I'd certainly consider voting for Mr. Trump in 2020, just like I'd consider voting for anybody else in 2020.
But didn't you once say that you'd never vote for him?
I said that I wouldn't vote for him in 2016.
So you see how Andrew Neil, he's trying to catch him. He's trying to get some kind of semantics, logical fallacies going, or just straight out straw mans. It's very obvious that when an election is coming up, you're talking about that election. The fact that Shapiro has to continue to clarify this point to Andrew Neil, like Andrew Neil is dumber than a 4-year-old. I don't want to offend 4-year-olds. I mean, there's 4-year-olds out there that could understand the basic points here, but Andrew Neil cannot. And Shapiro has to constantly clarify as if he's clarifying for a small child. And again, I don't want to offend small children. There's plenty of small children out there that don't need to have this level of clarification as Andrew Neil supposedly does, unless he's playing stupid and just continually trying to play gotcha. But it's weird, because how many times are you going to try to play gotcha with the same question? I mean, does he think Shapiro's going to all of a sudden say, oh yeah, I definitely said I would never vote for him in the history of humanity? Obviously, he was talking about that election, and he's clarified this point many times. So clearly, Andrew Neil has done no homework. He's reading from his cheat sheet of gotcha questions, either prepared by himself or his handlers and controllers, those that pull his strings. It's really weird. I mean, it's seeming less and less likely the longer this goes on that Andrew Neil is playing stupid. I don't know, though.
And then I wrote a column for National Review explaining the conditions under which I might change my mind.
You're a culture war warrior. Isn't he largely on your side? You wrote once it was unlikely he'd appoint conservative judges to the Supreme Court. He has.
Right.
So you were wrong.
Wait. Does he not know what the word unlike? Okay, all right. We're getting into MINDSHOCK territory. Ben Shapiro was wrong. Ben Shapiro didn't say he wouldn't. He said it was not likely. So does Andrew Neil not know what the word unlikely means? Unlikely. So Shapiro's opinion was that something was unlikely, but it ended up happening. If Shapiro had said it would never happen, then he'd be flat out wrong. But it looks like Andrew Neil doesn't know what the word unlikely is. So again, is this playing stupid? To what degree is he playing stupid? Because it might not be playing, because even if he's just executing the agenda for his string pullers, does he not realize how silly it's making him look? As he psychologically projected earlier, if he knew how dumb that sounded, would he be saying these things? I really don't know, but it's not looking good for Andrew Neil. And notice how he completely sidestepped Shapiro's clear and concise answer, that not only did he say that he specifically outlined points on what would get him to change his position on voting for Trump. Obviously, somebody you're never going to vote for, there's nothing that would change your mind. So Andrew Neil, again, does not seem to be operating on even a children's level mentality, which is quite sad here. I mean, I'm starting to feel bad for the poor guy getting thrashed this severely. I mean, Shapiro's known for this, but I mean, come on, have some mercy on this old fart.
I like many of President Trump's policies, even if I still have serious reservations about his personality and character.
Do you think there's a Democrat that could beat him in 2020?
Sure, I think there are several Democrats who could beat him in 2020.
Who would have the best chance?
I think that Joe Biden is likeliest to beat him, considering that he has significant appeal in a lot of the Rust Belt, in places like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, the places that President Trump needs to win to retain the presidency. And Joe Biden also has a long history in politics, which means that the American people already have sort of a preconceived vision of him. President Trump, as a campaigner, is very good at dragging unknowns through the mud, or at exposing details about people that are previously sort of covered up. But when it comes to Joe Biden, he's been well exposed for a very long time. Most people know him, and he's not nearly as unpopular even going in as Hillary Clinton was in 2016.
Wow, what a succinct answer. And again, just continuing to thrash Andrew Neil, who's just trying to catch him on anything. He's so desperate to make him wrong about something, about anything. It's hilarious.
So if it was a close race between Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump, you would, from what you say, I think, probably go for Mr. Trump.
Yes, I would vote for Mr. Trump.
Okay, wow. So the first sign of cognitive function from Andrew Neil, Shapiro just clearly outlined everything, and Andrew Neil still sounded confused. I mean, I don't know. Wow, this is rough.
If it were a race between Biden and Trump, because I think that the damage that President Trump has done to the country on a character and rhetorical level has already been done and cannot be undone. I don't see it as getting worse day by day. That is the new status quo, unfortunately. Now the question becomes which policies I would most like to see enacted, and Trump's policy preferences are closer to my own than Joe Biden's are.
Now, you're a star of new media, of conservative new media. You and others on the left and the right, you position yourselves as supposed tellers of hard truths. But haven't you all just really coarsened public discourse in America and exacerbated its divisions?
Wow, that's rich coming from the way he's coming from the way that he's conducting this interview. Oh man, the psychological projection off the charts, and you could see from his face that he's fairly serious about this question. So again, the cognitive function of Andrew Neil, I'm just not convinced there's a lot there. I mean, look at his face right here. He actually said that with a straight face. Or is he just such a phenomenal actor? Are his acting skills just that phenomenal? I mean, again, I'm not going to pretend to know.
You know, it's kind of odd to be hearing about me coarsening public discourse when you call policies you disagree with brutal and bringing us back to the Dark Ages, sir.
My sentiments exactly. Shapiro called him out exactly on that. And then usually Andrew Neil's go-to is just to completely ignore his own demolition. I mean, he's demolished so severely. I guess that might be a good tactic because, I mean, he's got nothing. He came to a tank fight with a sponge, with a wet sponge. So, like, if you got nothing, I guess the best thing is to change the subject.
The point, I don't want to return to it, but the point was to put a position for you to reply to it. And I thought we covered that. I'll put some of the points too, because on your
characterization of issues is part of the problem in the coarsening of public debate.
Well, maybe it's also part of your problem too. Because
and immediately with a deflection, instead of admitting it, like a man of honesty and integrity, he's obviously got none here. He just immediately deflects like a small child who can't be wrong. He immediately deflects to Shapiro. Very, very telling.
Because we have from your YouTube videos, Ben Shapiro destroys the abortion argument. Ben Shapiro destroys transgenderism.
Okay, wait a second. We have videos from you. So is Andrew Neil not familiar with how the internet works? Wow, this is just getting worse and worse. Again, it's quite shocking that people consider this a loss for Shapiro. This is his largest landslide victory that I believe I've seen. I've watched a fair number of Shapiro's debates, Q&As, various appearances in preparing for logically analyzing him. And this might be the largest landslide victory thus far. Andrew Neil hasn't brought a single point to the table. He's been demolished every second of this debate. And And now he doesn't know how the internet works. Is he not aware that anybody can put up a video and title it anything? So if all these people putting up videos of Andrew Neil destroys Ben Shapiro, Andrew Neil's personally on the hook for that? This guy's this clueless, he doesn't know how the internet works. Oh man. I don't know how Shapiro has this level of restraint even thus far. I mean, most people would have probably walked off already thus far when dealing someone as bereft of logic and reason and exercising an obvious agenda for their handlers and controllers as Andrew Neil is here.
And abortion. Is that not a kind of coarse public discourse?
Well, are those videos labeled by me?
I have no idea. But
Why are you?
But he has, so he admits he has no idea. But if we rewind, he just said these videos from you.
Because we have from you YouTube videos from you.
So if he has no idea who made the videos or who uploaded it, why even bring it up? Is Andrew Neil really this clueless? Or is he gotten to the point in his career where he just doesn't care anymore? He doesn't care if he's viewed as this Dunning-Kruger goof that's, dumber than a 4-year-old. He just doesn't care. He just wants his paycheck, so he doesn't even read the list beforehand. He gets to his job, and like a good little slave, he picks up the sheet and just tries to play gotcha with whoever's on, like whatever's on the agenda, and he really doesn't care that he looks this dumb? Has he reached that age? Or is he honestly possibly old and senile enough where he would, he's just not understanding the situation in the first place? I really don't know. All the MindShock listeners can jump in with their opinions.
Picking out, why are you, I have a question. Why are you picking out random YouTube videos put up by people who are not me?
That's the real point. That's the real question there. Andrew Neil's appearance here, this is the worst showing I think I've seen of anybody going head-to-head with Shapiro in a non-university setting. This is terrible on the part of Andrew Neil.
Are you
and then attributing the titles to me?
Are you unhappy with the way they've been described?
I think that people can describe me however they please. It's a free country, and I'm all in favor of a public debate. If you watch the actual clips, they are generally civil conversations between me and somebody who disagrees with me.
You say in your new book, you suggest...
So immediate sidestepping. So this man, Andrew Neil, has been thrashed like a redheaded stepchild so many times now. Instead of even respond to how he was made to look like such a fool, he just immediately changes. That might be the best strategy. If all he's got is a wet sponge against Ben Shapiro's multitude of tanks, perhaps that's the best strategy. But again, I don't know how anybody could think Shapiro lost this one.
Suggest that America's largest struggle at the moment is, quote, the struggle for our national soul. We are so angry at each other right now. And I think that's true. I've just returned from the United States.
And it looks like he hasn't read this sheet earlier. This looks like proof that he might just be some mouthpiece, clueless, brainless puppet who just shows up for work and reads the sheet. Because would he say, in a different tone, I think that's true, I just came from the US, if he wrote the sheet himself? So he looks like he's just some kind of clueless puppet exercising an agenda, and then Shapiro just completely demolished him worse than anybody I've seen outside of those university Q&As with students. This is so embarrassing for Andrew Neil, and I guess he just doesn't care. I don't know.
But aren't you part of the problem with the way you go about your discourse, not the solution?
Wait, so having civil discourse is part of the problem? Andrew Neil's still going. It's like he's some kind of possibly some mentally disabled 3-year-old who it doesn't matter how many times you explain something to him in plain, simple, easy to understand English, he's just going to continue going with it. So civil discourse is part of the problem, according to him, according to Andrew Neil. The irony here and everything Andrew Neil is doing while projecting it onto Ben Shapiro is absolutely hilarious.
I think we can all do better in our discourse, but the fact that I've reached out to so many people across the aisle to have conversations with them is pretty evident. The fact that I was willing to walk from a publication that was paying me money over principle is pretty evident. The fact that I've called out President Trump, a member of a party of which I am a member, repeatedly when I think that he has done things that are immoral, I think is decent evidence that I'm looking at least for a civil conversation.
Well, as you say in your book, you say that there's quite a key phrase, we are so angry at each other right now.
And again, he completely ignores everything that Shapiro just said, which of course decimated all of his points and arguments, which aren't even his handlers' points and arguments. They're using him as a puppet to look foolish, trying to play gotcha with Shapiro. And I mean, this is just, this is getting painful here. I mean, we're nearing the end here. We're almost done, but it's pretty painful.
But as I say, aren't you part of that anger? Aren't you encouraging that anger? For example, you described Mr. Obama's State of the Union address in 2012 as fascist mentality in action.
Well, I think that if you want to argue with the characterization, then we can talk about what exactly his State of the Union address said. Is it charged language in politics? Sure. The problem that I have is not with charged language in politics, which I'm generally in favor of. I like a robust public debate and a very loud and spirited public debate. I have no problem with that whatsoever. What I'm talking about is the assumption that people with whom we disagree politically are inherently of bad character or, in your words, want to bring us back to the Dark Ages.
But again, it was your description of the State of the Union address in 2012 as fascist.
So wait a second. Does Andrew Neil not know the definition of fascist? Because hold on a second. Let's pretend it. Let's remain neutral here. Let's pretend we don't know the contents of that address, and some people probably don't. If the contents are fascist, is it not allowed to objectively, neutrally, and accurately describe fascist concepts as fascist? Like, if something is blue, are you allowed to call it blue, or do you have to call it green because more people find green comforting? So is Andrew Neil saying you're not allowed to tell the truth if it's too charged? I mean, I'm not understanding. Like, Shapiro never attacked anybody's character. He's making objective observations for the most part, and he could be inaccurate about those, and he's freely willing to admit that. And he just really cut him off there, saying he's willing to talk about the contents. Yet Andrew Neil has zero arguments. What about the contents particularly are or are not fascist? He's just making generalized statements. These hasty generalization, logical fallacies, painting with a broad brush, appeal to extreme. I mean, Andrew Neil's brought nothing but fallacies to the table and his own incomprehension of basic English words. And somehow he thinks that's enough to play gotcha, or again, he's just that old, he doesn't care, and he's just going down the list for his handlers and controllers.
The wording of President Trump's 2012 address was bad and wrong.
That's all. There are plenty of things that are bad and wrong, but it doesn't make them fascist.
Well, I suppose that's true. But if you would like to, again, if you'd like to read me the column out loud, I suppose I can critique it for you.
Oh, well, again, with Mr. Obama, you said, and you're Jewish yourself. I only mention that because, to put this in context, the Jews who vote for Obama are, by and large, Jews in name only. Ginos, you call them.
So again, Andrew Neil refused to actually cite or talk any specific points. He's so triggered, he's just trying to use these trigger words like fascism, Jews in name only, whatever. He's trying to play gotcha with these emotionally triggered words instead of having a logical, honest, integrity conversation with integrity. And the fact that Shapiro has lasted this long, I mean, I don't know. Like, he needs bonus points for this. I mean, I think even any kind of emotion in the walk-off can be negated. The fact that he's put up with this drivel from Andrew Neil, like, there's no substance whatsoever to anything Andrew Neil has said, and yet Shapiro is still attempting to have a normal conversation with him like a human being, but he's not really making it possible.
My statement was based on the fact that Jews in the United States, as an ethnic group, are largely irreligious, which is true by every single poll. Jews are the most irreligious group in the United States. As an Orthodox Jew who actually takes Judaism seriously, the point that I am making is that most Jews who are ethnically Jewish are not religiously Jewish in any context.
No. The point you were making is that Jews who vote for Obama are Jews in name only.
Wait. So now Andrew Neil knows the point Shapiro is making better than Shapiro. And Shapiro's attempting to educate this poor old goof, and he's refusing to even listen to what Shapiro is saying. Again, this is like a conversation. I mean, it's like Andrew Neil's a mentally disabled child, and Shapiro's doing the best he can, but the mental capacity is just not there even for this basic level conversation. Andrew Neil should not even be in there embarrassing himself. And he doesn't even understand any of the points Shapiro are presenting. Now he's pretending and hallucinating to know the point Shapiro was making more than Shapiro himself. Because if Obama's policies are against what practicing religious Jews would be doing, then of course what Shapiro just said is dead accurate. So now is Andrew Neil hallucinating he knows better than Ben Shapiro how to practice Judaism, or what the polls are for practicing versus non-practicing Jews and Jews voting for Obama? Because Andrew Neil is completely clueless across the board about all of this, yet he's pretending Shapiro is flat out wrong or is using charged language for the sake of charged language that's not actually objective descriptions of what's going on.
I said that, yes, that is correct, that Jews who voted for Barack Obama, a progenitor of the Iran deal, a person who was cracking down on religious liberty, a person who spent much of his career as president of the United States attempting to deprive Israel of the necessities to defend itself, that people, Jews who voted for President Obama, by and large, cared about Judaism far less than they did about other priorities.
Did you say they should turn their badge in as a Jew?
Yes, I believe that if you are somebody who takes Judaism seriously, that comes along with ideological commitment.
I mean, I guess.
Also, I hope you're having fun, by the way, going through every old tweet that I've ever sent to try and do gotcha questions. But if you'd like to have a discussion about my general philosophy or things I've done in, say, I don't know, that's 2012, so it's now 2019. If you'd like to discuss something I've done in, say, like the past 5 years, why don't we do that? How about that?
I mean, this kind of calm dismantling. I mean, Shapiro's not even really triggered. I mean, he looks like he's just simply talking to a small, spoiled child, and he's giving the child every benefit of the doubt, but the child just does not understand. And he still has the utmost respect for this child. And again, I don't want to insult regular children's mental capacities, but, you know, a mentally disabled child or such, that it's not their fault they're mentally disabled, but you can't pretend certain individuals have mental faculties they don't have, hallucinating that they're capable of understanding things they are not. That doesn't work out for anybody. If we're being objective, we're being objective. And this is just, again, this is the largest, this is the most landslide decimation I have ever seen in Ben Shapiro talking, being interviewed, or having a discussion or debate with anybody. This actually, I don't even want to say outside of universities. I mean, there's some clueless college students that have put forth much better arguments than anything Andrew Neil is presenting. And you could see from Andrew Neil's face that he got called out, that he's just going through the list of his masters and controllers, and that this is just not an honest conversation with any kind of integrity.
Because your book is a criticism of how angry America is and how America has to do better. And I'm simply
I have an entire list on my website, sir. On my list, I have an entire website of dumb, bad things that I've said. I'm simply trying to point out some of the things you've said that seem to me to help to stoke that anger. For example, you said Israelis like to build, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage.
So is he... Again, he's just trying to play gotcha, and Shapiro's done whatever, however many millions of words or sentences that he's written, and Andrew Neil is attempting to go after the 0.001% or whatever that are highly controversial. Shapiro's retracted statements he's made, and Andrew Neil has no interest in any kind of real logical discussion of any kind. He only wants to play gotcha on these, these fractional moments of everything Ben Shapiro has said. It's really silly. And again, because he's being used as a puppet, his masters and controllers don't care if he looks like a clueless goof as he is here. So he's the one embarrassing himself, and I guess he just doesn't care.
Well, as I say in an article entitled, "Here's a list of all the giant, bad, dumb things I've ever said."
Was that dumb?
What? Yes, that's a dumb tweet. And not only, but it is also important to mention that the next...
And he's talking about, the other thing Andrew Neil's so close about, he's talking about his book, and yet he's picking apart tweets, possibly emotional tweets. I don't know if Ben Shapiro drinks, possibly drunk tweets. What does that have to do with if he wants to talk about the content of the book, why not talk about the content of the book? I mean, if you're going to go through every single tweet an individual has ever tweeted, I mean, Andrew Neil's going to have a lot of work this kind of silly nonsense is just, how clueless does Andrew Neil have to be? Doesn't he want to? So clearly he doesn't want to have any kind of real conversation. And again, the fact that Shapiro has lasted this long, I mean, it is stunning. It is mind-shocking.
few tweets clarify that that tweet is specifically referring to the Hamas leadership, which, by the way, a BBC I've seen is relatively reticent to condemn.
No, actually, it wasn't. What you went on to do and say, you are correct about the slur on Arabs. It's not all Arabs that want to live in open sewage and blow things up. It's just Palestinians, you went on to say.
It says the ones who take...
So again, Andrew Neil is hallucinating that he knows better than Shapiro who he was referring to, and Andrew Neil is looking like he's reading these for the first time. Unless he really is even dumber than he's presented himself here, and he actually has read them multiple times and he still doesn't understand the context. Because Shapiro has explained this multiple times, and again, obviously there's a limited amount of characters in a tweet, so you have to read the whole thread, etc., etc. And Shapiro has explained this many, many times on exactly whom he was referring to. And again, obviously, when you're typing fast or whatever, you can't write out the full description in every single tweet. So you're going to continue it from the previous tweet. And now Andrew Neil is arguing with Shapiro over what Ben Shapiro meant and of what Ben Shapiro was talking about. I mean, he's stooping to new lows even for this. This is just the biggest landslide decimation I have seen thus far. And my biggest attack on Ben Shapiro is he called this a loss. I mean, he decimated this poor old fart worse than I have ever seen anybody decimated in speaking to Ben Shapiro. And that is now currently including all of his college campus talks and Q&As with clueless college kids.
Sides
and then
against
you said
Israel
the
in the Israel-Palestinian
Arab
conflict.
population is rotten to the core, you went on to say. Not Hamas, the Palestinian Arab population.
And Andrew Neil keeps interrupting Ben Shapiro. So Shapiro can't even explain the point. Andrew Neil actually waited for Shapiro to start a little and then interrupted him. I mean, so Andrew Neil has just proved here he has absolutely zero integrity. Even if he's correct about his point, which he's clearly not, but even if he were, these kinds of tactics are not used by logical neutral parties with integrity.
I say that by poll numbers, they elected Hamas. They educate their children in school that Israel should be obliterated, sir.
I guess...
If you want to read, honestly, this is a giant waste of time, in the sense that the entire interview is designed for you to shout slogans or old things that I've said at me. I don't see how this forwards the debate. You talk about undermining the public discourse. It seems to me that simply going through and finding lone things that sound bad out of context and then hitting people with them is a way for you to make a quick buck on BBC off the fact that I'm popular and no one has ever heard of you.
There are not many bucks to be made on the BBC, unlike American broadcasting, Mr. Shapiro.
Wait, so does Andrew Neil work for free? So let's look at Andrew Neil's salary. So according to reports, Wikipedia, Neil earned between 200 to 249,999 pounds between 2016 and 2017. That's between $276,000 and $668 and $345,651. So he's making over $250,000 a year, and he's calling that not much. A lot of people would call that a lot of money. And I know that fluctuates. I think he might have made less on a different year, more in another year, but he's making over $250,000 a year, and he's calling that not a lot of bucks. Now, how much is that over the course of his entire career? I mean, this guy's making millions of dollars over his career, and he's calling that not a lot of bucks to be made. And then he's adding this false comparison to U.S. Journalists and commentaries, whatever, which of course has a wide range. Yeah, sure, there's people making a lot more. There's people making nothing, almost nothing. So this guy is such a clueless goof, and he's so triggered now he's sputtering to pretend that there's not a lot of bucks to be made being a shill for the for the establishment like he is. Quite hilarious. I guess Ben Shapiro struck a nerve there.
The point I'm trying to make is that your words are hardly designed to produce the consensus and understanding that the book seems to want to produce. That's my point, that you write about, Judeo-Christian culture and so on, but so much of what you've said in the past would seem to turn its back on Judeo-Christian culture.
So much, like 3 tweets? he could only pick out like 3 things out of everything Shapiro's ever done. And he calls that so much. He's obviously reading from a sheet, but this is painful. I mean, this is just the most embarrassing interview I've ever seen with Shapiro on the side of Andrew Neil. This was the largest blowout I've ever seen. I don't know how anybody can hallucinate that Andrew Neil won just because Shapiro walked off because this guy wasn't comprehending even points that a small child could comprehend. And it was just, basically an attempted smear job that backfired to the utmost degree.
You're lecturing me on Judeo-Christian culture after you call the pro-life position barbaric?
I just asked you a question.
And I asked you a question. You failed to answer a single one of mine. Frankly, I find this whole thing a waste of time. If you want to read the book and critique the book, why don't you read and critique the book? If you want to critique me, you can think whatever you want of me.
Why don't you
frankly,
just try and
I don't
answer
care.
the
I don't frankly give a damn what you think of me since I've never heard of you.
And I've never heard of you until I briefed myself for this.
Wait, well, that's evident. Until he briefed, what did his brief consist of? Reading this typed out sheet of stuff that he's reading for the first time? That's his briefing? Or he was just told, oh, Ben Shapiro's a bad guy, make him look bad, here's a sheet of points, and he didn't know that Shapiro was actually a sharp-witted guy who could throw it all back in his face and thrash him like a redheaded stepchild intellectually. And he wasn't prepared for that, so now he's all triggered and sputtered out of control. And Ben Shapiro, for the first time here at the very end of the interview, so we're about 15 minutes in, at the very end, he does look like he's finally had enough, where he was quite calm to just calmly dismantle Andrew Neil, and then now he's getting a little fed up with just the nonsense, the pure nonsense coming out of Neil's mouth that has zero validity in any way.
But that's not the issue. You have a new
why the hell
book
are you
out,
interviewing
and
me,
it's
sir?
it's an interesting book. But my point is, your book claims that
Well, it'd be nice if you would quote it from time to time.
Which is a good... Actually, Shapiro's not even that mad. He's still kind of making fun of him, taking jabs, because he's clearly... the mental capacity's not there, but on the part of Andrew Neil. But yeah, he hasn't quoted the book a single time. He defaults to quoting tweets. Old tweets that he picked out a tweet in the middle of a thread that didn't reference the exact individual Shapiro was talking about. And then Shapiro might have made these generalizations erroneously or not, or in an attempt to rile people up, which is fair. He does that as well sometimes. But to hallucinate that that's all he does, I mean, why does Andrew Neil not have anything of substance? And clearly, and he keeps saying it's an interesting book. Is that what you say when you haven't read it? Or his handlers, they didn't even take the time to get quotes from the book. I mean, it is kind of interesting, and Shapiro is just calling him out on it, and making him look like this just utter fool. And it's so funny.
Your book is, well, actually, I've done so several times, and I'm about to do so again, if you would let me just finish the question. Your book
frankly, I don't
claims
think
that
this,
society
honestly,
is turning its back
sir,
on Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah,
What are those values? What are the values it's turning its back on?
So he doesn't even know the basic Judeo-Christian. I mean, Shapiro has already gone over this multiple times. He's gone over this multiple times, and Andrew Neil, look at his face. Is he really asking this question seriously? I mean, if Shapiro just imagined that Andrew Neil was a mentally disabled 4-year-old, I think the conversation could have gone better, because Andrew Neil's not understanding any answers. And every time Shapiro thrashes him thoroughly, he completely changes the subject or goes to a different point after he's been made to look foolish.
I'm not inclined to continue an interview with a person as badly motivated as you as an interviewer. So I think we're done here. I appreciate your time, sir.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time and for showing that anger is not part of American political discourse. Now, Mr. Shapiro, we'll say goodbye.
And who's more angry? I mean, Shapiro calmly... And look how triggered Andrew Neil is while Shapiro's calmly taking his mic off. So yeah, Shapiro, I for some reason I remembered this. I saw a brief clip, but again, they probably, it was edited to make Shapiro look even worse than he did. But yeah, he just calmly took his mic off and left. He didn't even really get mad. He calmly pointed out Andrew Neil's goofiness and left. So it's weird how Shapiro considers this a loss. Is that illogical on Shapiro's part? And that's really all I have here to really criticize him in this one. I will be going after him in follow-up logical analyses. But yeah, this might be the biggest landslide decimation of a debate involving Ben Shapiro. Again, Andrew Neil just made a complete and utter fool of himself, just sputtering on his words every time Shapiro called him out on his lack of integrity and just the gotcha questions and trying to take tweets from nearly a decade old out of context to make Shapiro look bad and attempt to link them to his book. I mean, and when he obviously has not read the book, otherwise he would actually have brought up legitimate points, unless maybe he did read the book and he didn't understand anything in it, so he had to rely on the cheat sheet of his handlers and controllers that wanted him to make Shapiro look bad. But we've seen this before. In older Shapiro interviews, there are these personalities and talking heads that do not anticipate that Shapiro is sharp. And that's going to call them, and he's going to call them on their BS. I mean, one of the famous ones is Shapiro decimating Piers Morgan. I mean, that's one of the other landslide decimations involving any kind of debate where Shapiro just thrashes Piers on gun control, calls him out every step of the way, and Piers Morgan's not used to that. He was just left dumbfounded. Found dumb, because obviously Piers Morgan is not the sharpest tool in the shed, although he's got some competition here with Andrew Neil. So yeah, this was a tough one. But I'm going to have to call out Shapiro on saying, well, I don't know why he gave the victory to Andrew Neil here, unless it was just simply Andrew Neil outlasted him. So Andrew Neil could play stupid to such a degree more than Ben Shapiro could take it, even though he thrashed him in terms of actual points every step of the way. Landslide. But who knows? I mean, that's kind of my analysis here. Andrew Neil brought a sponge to a tank fight, and it did not end well for him. And then I guess I could interpret it as Ben Shapiro showed mercy, and he turned the tanks away because he just felt bad for this poor guy who all he had was a wet sponge, and he got tired of embarrassing him. But, I mean, that's the way I saw it. The MindShock listeners can point out any logical fallacies I might have missed. Hope you guys enjoyed another logical analysis on the MindShock podcast. If you like the MindShock podcast, you can donate to our PayPal, help support the channel, help us get out more mind-shocking analyses of various debates and discussions. Like the podcast, share it across social media platforms, of which you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Patreon. Patrons do get priority for a case topic, logical analysis, co-podcaster requests. You could also be a guest on the podcast. You can debate me on the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. This is Bruce McGuire, signing off. Catch you guys next time.